Welcome to the darkest corners of true crime where reality outdoes fiction. Today we're counting down the top 10 real-life horror stories. Terrifying true crime cases that will haunt you. Brace yourself. These tales are not for the faint of heart. They're real, they're chilling, and they'll leave you questioning the world around you. From the unthinkable to the unspeakable, these stories will prove that sometimes reality can be more terrifying than your worst nightmares. Fasten your seatbelts as we delve into the first horrifying tale on our list. Starting our countdown at number 10, we have the Ketty cabin murders. In the tranquil town of Ketty, California, nestled amidst the towering pines, lies a sinister mystery. It was the night of April 11th, 1981, when the peace of this close-knit community was shattered. In cabin 28, a gruesome scene unfolded. 3 members of the Sharp family, Sue, her 12-year-old daughter Tina, 15-year-old son John, and John's friend Dana Wingate, met a horrifying end. The crime scene was a tableau of horror. 3 of the victims were found by Sue's oldest daughter Sheila the next day. Their bodies were bound with electrical cording, medical tape, and had been brutally bludgeoned and stabbed. 3 years later, on April 22, 1984, Tina's remains were discovered by a man named Ronald Pedrini in the woods about 90 miles southwest of Ketty. Adding to the macabre puzzle, the crime scene itself was strangely selective. In a cabin housing 5 people, the violence seemed disproportionately focused on Sue, Tina, John, and Dana Wingate, leaving Sue Sharp's 2 younger children and a neighborhood boy, Justin Eason, who were also in the cabin that night, unharmed. Theories about the motive behind these heinous acts range from personal vendettas to potential drug connections, yet none offer a conclusive answer. The lack of clear suspects, alongside a myriad of potential motives, only compounds the chilling mystery of the Ketty cabin murders. As investigators and amateur sleuths continue to scrutinize the case, the ominous shadows cast by the events of that night still linger over Ketty. The unsolved nature of this crime is a stark reminder that even the most picturesque communities can harbor dark secrets. At number 9, we have the bone-chilling tale of the Axeman of New Orleans. In the years 1918 to 1919, New Orleans was paralyzed by a series of gruesome murders. The Axeman, an unidentified assailant, targeted random victims in their homes, wielding an axe or razor. The randomness of his attacks left the community in a state of terror. The Axeman's method was brutal. Couples were often his targets, and he'd break into homes at night. Strangely, he spared some households, leaving behind cryptic notes. The Axeman claimed that playing jazz music would grant immunity. This led to a citywide phenomenon of jazz echoing through the streets as residents desperately tried to evade his deadly grasp. As abruptly as it began, the murders ceased and the Axeman vanished. The true identity of this mysterious figure remains unknown. Theories range from a deranged human to a supernatural force haunting the city. Even today, the enigma of the Axeman endures, leaving New Orleans scarred by his dark legacy. Coming in at number 8, we uncover the Chicago Tylenol murders. In September 1982, a nightmare unfolded as 7 individuals in the Chicago area died after consuming cyanide-laced Tylenol capsules. This sinister act marked the beginning of a nationwide health crisis and led to a seismic shift in product packaging safety regulations. The Tylenol murders triggered widespread panic as the public grappled with the realization that over-the-counter medications could become instruments of death. The incident prompted a massive recall, and tamper-resistant packaging became the new standard for consumer safety. Despite extensive investigations, the identity of the Tylenol poisoner remains a mystery. The case, which remains unsolved to this day, has left an indelible mark on the pharmaceutical industry and the collective psyche of a nation. The Chicago Tylenol murders serve as a haunting reminder of the fragility of trust and the lengths some individuals will go for malevolent purposes. Coming in at number 7, we unravel the chilling account of the 1977 Oklahoma Girl Scout murders. At Camp Scott, nestled in the Mays County wilderness, 3 young Girl Scouts, 8-year-old Lori Lee Farmer, 9-year-old Michelle Heather Goose, and 10-year-old Doris Denise Milner, met a fate that would haunt the nation. On the night of June 12, 1977, their tents were invaded and their lives were brutally taken. The details are as heartbreaking as they are horrifying. The bodies of these innocent girls were discovered lifeless, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit community and beyond. Law enforcement descended on the camp, but the investigation faced challenges from the start. The heinous nature of the crime, the lack of immediate leads, and the remote location complicated the search for answers. On June 23, 1977, police named a suspect. His name was Gene Leroy Hart, 33, a convicted burglar and rapist. Hart was ultimately acquitted of this crime but convicted of previous rape and burglary charges and sentenced to more than 300 years in prison. In 2019, DNA evidence strongly suggested Hart's involvement and ruled out every suspect except him. In June 1979, Hart died of a massive heart attack while in prison. Number 6 on our list brings us face-to-face with the Vampire of Sacramento. In the late 70s, Sacramento was gripped by fear as Richard Chase embarked on a gruesome killing spree. Born on May 23, 1950 in Santa Clara, California, Chase's troubled life took a sinister turn when he developed a fascination with blood, leading to disturbing fantasies and animal mutilations in his youth. Between 1977 and 1978, Chase escalated to horrifying acts. He murdered 6 people, including men, women, and children, in a series of gruesome attacks. Chase's method involved breaking into homes, where he would mutilate his victims and consume their blood in a twisted quest to satisfy his delusional belief that he needed it to survive. The community's panic reached its peak when Chase's violent spree came to an end. Police apprehended him in 1978, discovering evidence of his heinous crimes. During the trial, it became apparent that Chase suffered from severe mental illness, leading to his conviction on multiple counts of murder. Richard Chase was found guilty, but ultimately avoided a death sentence by taking his own life in prison in 1980. The Vampire of Sacramento's reign of terror left an indelible mark on the city, serving as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. Halfway through our countdown, at number 5, we encounter the Yosemite Park Killer. In 1999, the tranquility of Yosemite National Park was shattered by Cary Stayner. Born into a troubled family, Stayner's dark journey began with the heartbreaking abduction of his brother in 1972. Stayner's 7-year-old brother Stephen was kidnapped by a child molester and held captive for more than 7 years before he managed to escape. Stephen later died in a 1989 motorcycle accident. Stayner's reign of terror reached its peak in 1999 when he brutally took the lives of 4 women. Among his victims were 42-year-old Carol Sund, her teenage daughter Julie, and their friend Silvina Peloso. The chilling crime spree concluded with the horrific beheading of naturalist Joey Armstrong. The manhunt for Stayner gripped the nation until he was finally apprehended. During his trial, it was revealed that Stayner harbored disturbing fantasies, and his troubled past played a significant role in shaping his violent tendencies. In 2002, Cary Stayner was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The Yosemite Park Killer left an indelible scar on the iconic national park and serves as a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk even in the most picturesque places. Number 4 on our list is the haunting tale of the Cleveland Torso murders. In the dark days of the Great Depression, Cleveland became the hunting ground for an unidentified serial killer known as the Cleveland Torso Murderer. Operating between 1935 and 1938, this enigmatic figure left a trail of dismembered bodies, earning the nickname for the brutal manner in which the victims were found, decapitated and often missing limbs. The Torso Murderer's victims were primarily drifters and individuals on the fringes of society, making identification challenging. The killer's modus operandi involved brutalizing the victims before leaving their remains in gruesome display. The mysterious and gruesome nature of these crimes baffled investigators, and the true identity of the Cleveland Torso Murderer remains unknown to this day. The Cleveland Torso Murderer's reign of terror ended as abruptly as it began, leaving a legacy of unsolved mysteries. In the 3rd spot, we find the Nightstalker. In the mid-1980s, residents of Southern California were living in fear as Richard Ramirez, known as the Nightstalker, embarked on a gruesome crime spree. Born in El Paso, Texas, Ramirez's troubled upbringing and fascination with Satanism set the stage for his descent into depravity. Between 1984 and 1985, Ramirez committed a series of brutal crimes, including murders, sexual assaults, and burglaries. His victims, ranging in age from 9 to 83, were chosen seemingly at random. Ramirez left satanic symbols at crime scenes, intensifying the terror he instilled in the community. The Nightstalker's reign of terror came to an end when he was captured in 1985. During his trial, Ramirez displayed a brazen demeanor, showcasing pentagrams on his hand and shouting, "Hail Satan," in the courtroom. He was ultimately convicted on 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. In 2013, Richard Ramirez died while on death row. The Nightstalker's heinous crimes left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness, reminding us of the true horrors that can lurk in the shadows. Just missing the top spot at number 2, we have the Toy Box Killer. In the 1990s, David Parker Ray, infamously known as the Toy Box Killer, sent shockwaves through the quiet town of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Ray's custom-made torture chamber, ominously referred to as the Toy Box, became the setting for unspeakable acts of brutality. Ray's modus operandi involved abducting and restraining victims in his soundproof trailer. Equipped with tools, restraints, and disturbing audio recordings, the victims endured prolonged and sadistic torture sessions, often documented in gruesome detail. The Toy Box Killer's reign of terror finally came to an end in 1999 when one of his intended victims managed to escape. Authorities uncovered the horrors within the Toy Box and arrested David Parker Ray, as well as accomplices Cynthia Hendy and Jesse Ray. The details that emerged during the trial were beyond comprehension. David Parker Ray was convicted on multiple counts of kidnapping and torture, receiving a lengthy prison sentence. The Toy Box Killer case stands as another harrowing reminder of the depths of human depravity. And finally, at the top of our list, we have BTK. Between 1974 and 1991, the residents of Wichita lived in fear of an elusive serial killer known as BTK, short for Bind, Torture, Kill. The perpetrator, Dennis Rader, taunted law enforcement and the media with cryptic letters detailing the gruesome details of his heinous crimes. After a spree of killings, BTK suddenly went silent, leaving investigators and the public in suspense for over a decade. It wasn't until the early 2000s that the case saw a startling resurgence. In a bizarre turn of events, Dennis Rader resurfaced in 2004, sending letters to the police and media, ultimately leading to his identification and subsequent arrest. During his trial, Rader coldly recounted the gruesome details of his crimes, showcasing a disturbing lack of remorse. His 10 known victims endured unimaginable suffering. Rader's first known victims were Joseph Otero, his wife Julie, and their 2 children, Joseph Jr. and Josephine. Rader bound, tortured, and killed the entire family in their home. Rader attacked Catherine Bright and her brother Kevin. Although Catherine succumbed to her injuries, Kevin survived the brutal assault. Shirley Vian fell prey to BTK's cruelty in March 1977. Rader strangled her to death in her home. Later in the same year, Rader targeted Nancy Fox, a young woman he stalked before breaking into her home. He bound, tortured, and killed her. Maureen Hedge became a victim in 1985. Rader lured her to his home where he murdered her. Vicky Wiggerly fell victim to BTK. Rader attacked her in her home, leaving behind a gruesome crime scene. Dolores Davis and her daughter were Rader's last known victims. He broke into their home, binding and strangling both women. Dennis Rader was convicted of 10 counts of first-degree murder and is currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The BTK case stands as a haunting chapter in criminal history, a stark reminder of the capacity for evil that can exist within seemingly ordinary individuals. And there you have it, 10 real-life horror stories. Terrifying tales that remind us of the dark side of reality. Each story, a chilling testament to the horrors that lurk in the corners of our world. Which story disturbed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comment section. And if you're up for more spine-chilling content, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.